Welcome, my friends, back to the Fat Man GM's revisitation of Fantasy Games Unlimited's space opera game system circa 1979 and 80. Like any game system or any RPG system pretty much known to all of us, they have their share, they come out with their share of modules or ready-to-run ventures. This is here is one of the few that I've purchased. They probably have somewhere between a half dozen and a dozen, probably closer to a dozen, but I only bought a couple, in part because I was at that age when I was much more keen on making my own than pre-buying theirs, and none of theirs had additional supplemental rules or covered unique regions or areas that you couldn't find in the existing Star Atlases in the core book. Galactica, it almost sounds like the movie, the TV series, Battlestar Galactica. Pretty much the same spelling. On a side note, this particular module I have seen quite a bit of use in other game systems. I used this in Star Wars, and I used it in MechWarrior a couple times. The layout is pretty much ubiquitous and applicable in any postmodern or futuristic game system. There is no rules in it per se, so you can easily adapt the content to whatever game system you're playing at the time. The main background is this extremely wealthy individual decided that he wanted to invest in yet another endeavor, so he creates this extremely large and rich environment for the wealthy to come play and spend their money. The book has a number of personalities, both primaries and secondaries. The interesting note, or the little note for the Star Master says, "This is in an environment like Casino Galactica. There should be many things going on. It should be a very busy place. People come and go, as do events. Encounters can be brief or long, meaningless or very important. In other words, lay it on heavy. Give the players a great deal of information, certainly more than they need. When they're not shooting it up, they need to be thinking, so give them lots of things to think about. In adventures like this, it's good to have several storylines going at once. Don't be sparing with the major characters. Let Cosmo Filroy roam through the palace, sap on his heels, conducting business affairs as he goes. That is what Filroy is like. Don't be afraid to use him or any of the others. Doesn't mean you have to involve them in life or death situations, but use them for color. As a Star Master who cannot find a use for Conchita Columbia should be ashamed. She's always working. If you provide a lot of atmosphere, players will get into it readily enough. While you play out the scenario you have decided upon, feed the players some clues, and another is in the offing. Feed the players some clues of another that is in the offing. This might be valuable. It might mean nothing. It doesn't matter, so long as you give them something to think about." So what they're advocating is having more than one storyline going on. The primary encounter and stuff for the players that you've got generated for them, but not to be bashful about including additional bits and pieces and hints and possible options that could lead off into tangents or unrelated encounters and adventures. It's this type of environment that's suited for that sort of thing, and it's encouraged. It's to potentially. I know that in one of my Star Wars campaigns where I used this as a backdrop, the characters pretty much operated out of the casino for the majority of the campaign because there was just so many different things going on, and they kept getting involved with stuff beyond what I was expecting it to, which is kind of the point, right? You're also looking at some of the artwork from the early 80s. This stuff is obviously heavily oriented from that particular time period, i.e. the big hair and the mustache is the Tom Selleck look, which a lot of us sported at the day, and I still do to some degree, I guess. Like I said, lots of notable members of the staff. members of security, bunch of guests. The one in preference that they refer to is Conchita Columbia. She's an agent of the Aztec Imperium. She is posing as a really high-priced escort, but she's actually very top-notch 007 and is in the process of being involved in several different schemes and or plots that can be easily adjusted or tapped for the players to get involved in. And we got our building key, a map, the layout of the place. And although I'll acknowledge, this is having spent many years playing and have seen much more elaborate stuff than what we used to have. Now, this place is actually pretty basic. The map is very basic, and considering how much the artwork suggests how lively the place is and how well established all of some of the really large and elaborate hotels that we find in Vegas and Atlantic City, this place is pretty small. The maps don't match the artwork, in my opinion, now. As an older veteran GM, I think that they needed to be much larger with a lot more stuff going on. But it still gives you a good breakdown, a good layout, a good set of outline on what's what, where's what. So it makes it, for a novice GM that I was at the day, it was actually fairly well designed and easy to handle while still having enough substance there to make it viable. You know, if you just you can look at the main gambling floor here and compare it to the space that they allow in the map, this implies that it's much, much larger than what it is. Such as the way these things work out, right? And we got hotel areas and stuff. Bring in some exotic animals. Some of these are imported, like the Terran leopard from Earth. Others are native to the planet or brought in by Gilroy and his staff to stock the roughly 1,000 square kilometer region of space that is the grounds and proper for the casino. This is because quite a few of his richer guests like to go on the quote safari or the hunt, and sometimes they bring in so much far more dangerous critters than what would normally be present on the planet and its environment. And we got the pre-made scenarios. For example, Huntley Worth's Hunt, one of those. In this case, the PCs may be tapped as guides and or porters and additional security for this wealthy man and his friends' big deep safari that they go out into the mountains, the surrounding mountains, and they're planning for 2 weeks. But what they don't know is, and he don't know, that his board of directors have decided it's time to knock him off and take over the company. They arranged for an assassin to do this while he's far up in the mountains and away from help. There's a danger that mountainsides always have there is a danger of mountainsides always in mountains, and one of these will be set off into a mountain slide to bury the party. This will look like an accident. The killer will lurk around for a few hours to pick off the survivors. Huntsworthy in particular. What nobody's prepared for is the blizzard that comes up unexpectedly, so it complicate not only the escape, but the assassin's job as well. The storm will last for 20 plus 1d6 hours, followed by clearing in generally good conditions. So they've already set it up, so not only do we have this potentially dangerous hunt with chasing some dangerous animals in a very rocky, steep, mountainous environment, the mountains themselves can be dangerous. Then we got an assassin that's bent on killing this guy, and to throw everything into an even more dramatic scenario, everybody gets waylaid by a blizzard. And then we still got to deal with the assassin and the blizzard, an extremely wealthy nut job who has it in his mind that either to fight back or to, I have to escape and save myself. We don't know exactly how his personality would be played out. Anyway, but you get the idea. So there's a lot of potential scenarios that are offered for the game. This, like I said, is one of the few modules. It's a good module. good adventure, useful in games today. It wouldn't take much to adapt this to a less than futuristic setting if necessary, although I would argue that there's a lot of social dynamics that wouldn't exist in a science or in a fantasy setting, but who's to say that it don't? I mean, I've been involved in some games and played games that were more steampunk or a futuristic, magically based instead of tech, they used magic, and the societies are pretty complicated, complex, so it's plausible. But for good science fiction stuff, this one here is not one to sneeze at. You ever see this on? I see it crop up on eBay and Amazon quite a bit, actually. So you can probably get this for $5 pretty cheap. It's worth. You can get a PDF. It's worth having and adding to your stack of stuff. There you have it.